over the last years. This is one of our records. In September 2016, we celebrated the 7th International Conference of Tibet Support Groups in the University in Brussels. 250 participants from more than 50 countries, they joined us in the remarkable event, including His Holiness and the Sikyom Lobsang Sangay. 1 week later, the Dalai Lama had a speech in front of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the European Parliament in Strasbourg in France. In January last year, we organized the conference Middle Way, the only viable solution for Tibet, joined by Dr. Lobsang Sangay. The evening before, he visited us in our TIG meeting to discuss the ongoing human rights violations in Tibet. And on the 10th of March 2018, I participated in a demonstration, Europe Rally for Tibet in Geneva. On the 59th Tibetan National Uprising Day, we had more than 3,500 people assembled to demonstrate the solidarity with the Tibetan people, and we had speeches in front of the Human Rights Council, one of the very most important addresses for human rights worldwide. On the 19th of June, we gathered together as every year to celebrate the birthday of His Holiness with MEPs, members of TIG, and the local Tibet support groups and the representatives of several political discussions. And in November last year, organized the conference on access to Tibet and the principle of solidarity with more than 100 participants, including the president of ICT, Matteo Mecacci, members of national parliaments. The conference took place again in Brussels. And in my constituency, I had the privilege to meet His Holiness on the Congress with Peace Nobel Prize winners in Darmstadt. Together with him, 2,500 guests in Darmstadt, together with Lech Walesa from Poland, together with Rebecca Johnson for the initiative to abolish nuclear weapons. And the last example, on the 9th of May last year, our Europe Day, members of the TIG board met His Holiness here again in Dharamsala. He emphasized the role of the European Union as an important voice for human rights in the world. We discussed the critical developments and, of course, the awful right-wing movements in member countries. Despite the conflicts within Europe and beyond, the Dalai Lama is strongly convinced of the important role of the European Union. He stressed the fact that Europe, more than ever, needs to act together in an increasingly insecure world. Tibet is and must be always on the agenda of the European Union, of the agenda of the European Commission, and of course of the European Council, and not only in our Parliament. We have to do the utmost to raise awareness about urgent developments. Just next week, I will be hosting another conference on the re-education camps in China and the persecution against minorities. We will keep on fighting for the rights of all the Tibetan people. And we are behind the middle way approach and the dialogue between the envoys of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in China and the protection of Tibetan culture, Tibetan religion, Tibetan language, and Tibetan identity. We prove our persistence as a strong voice for human rights. Long live Tibet, Tashi Delek.
Zerim Gebadelaya, Germany, Tumi, Bishop Michael Brand, Chona Sungshen Nangyo.
I request Mr. Michael Brand, member of the German Buddhist Club and chairman of the Tibet Discussion Circle in the German Parliament, to address the gathering.
Tashi Delek. Dear Prime Minister Lobsang Sangay, esteemed guests, dear friends of Tibet and followers of the Dalai Lama, it's an honor for me on this special day in this special place to remember the Tibetan Uprising 60 years ago. Today, the world shall not turn away from the dramatic situation of the Tibetans. The worldly and spiritual leadership of the Tibetans has repeatedly chosen the path of peace in many